Welcome back to my channel. I'm Zena with Zena is Sewing, and I'm coming to you today with a pattern hack series. And we're going to start with Simplicity 8656, the top. I've made this top a bunch of times. I can't even count how many times I've made it and how many times I've hacked it and turned it into something spectacular. And so we're going to do a series of hacks with Simplicity 8656. I hope you're going to join me because this is such a quick and easy pattern. I love Simplicity 8656. I love anything that has minimal pieces, pattern pieces, and Simplicity 8656 is just one of those. It has one piece for the top and one pattern piece for the skirt. I've only made the skirt one time, but I've recreated this top a dozen times. And so today I want to share with you that an introduction of a pattern hack series that I hope you'll join me in a couple of weeks. Let me tell you a little bit about this pattern. Simplicity 8656. It has, again, one pattern piece for the top. And the top has just one, the shoulder seam. You're just going to do the shoulder seam. You'll be doing a side seam. You'll finish the neckline. And then you'll finish the hem and the shoulders. The sleeves. So just keep in mind, it's a really simple pattern. So go ahead and pick up this pattern if you don't already have it. So that's why we're going to start in 2 weeks. That gives you plenty of time to get this pattern. And if you haven't already made this pattern in its original version, 2 weeks is going to give you enough time to look for a sale, get the pattern, and make the original version. And you're making the original version just so you can check the fitting before we start hacking it. It's always nice to know how a top fits you. And so I want to talk about that as well. So next week, I'm going to show you all of the makes that I've done with Simplicity 8656 thus far. And I'm going to talk about the fitting for those, because the very first time I made this pattern, I liked it, but I wasn't a fan. And I almost chunked it and said, forget about it. Until I came back to it and started hacking it and doing some things to it. So let me say this. I'm a person who has yet to master the sloper pattern. Yet, I'm going to get it, but I've yet to master it. And I don't know if that's because I'm a plus size person. And so the measurements, you have to do a little bit different measurements when you're doing a plus size sloper. And so I've yet to master that. However, Simplicity 8656 is my sloper. It is the pattern that I go to when I want a quick sew. It's the pattern that I go to when I just need a top, when I need something sexy, when I need a jumpsuit, when I need a dress. So we're going to talk about all the ways that you can use this pattern maybe as your sloper. And so it's not a fitted sloper like the normal sloper, but it is a sloper for me and my body type and how I like to wear my clothes. So you have to know your body type and know the kind of things that you like and want to wear. And so this was helpful for me, and knowing that I could use this pattern in any kind of way that I wanted to. And so I want you to join me in 2 weeks. We're going to start with the first pattern hack of Simplicity 8656. And that's going to be the banded bottom. And that's the one that I'm wearing and the one that you see on the dress form. The banded bottom is going to have a banded bottom, of course. And then we're also going to have banded sleeves. So you're going to need Simplicity 8656 for that. In 2 weeks, you're also going to need some pattern paper, because we're going to trace this pattern to our sloper size, and we're going to also need to hack it up. So we're going to need pattern paper so we can hack up, the trace and not your original pattern. And you're also going to need some rib knitting. So let's talk about rib knitting, because there are different ways that you can buy rib knitting, and rib knitting comes in different forms. So if you see this rib knitting, which I've cut cut into. This is the rib knitting that you'll find on the Bolt in the fabric store. And when you get this type of rib knitting, basically it comes just like fabric, so it has that one fold on the side. And when you cut it for whatever pattern or whatever project you're working on, you're basically gonna usually cut one wide piece, or you might cut it on the fold, and so that way you'll have like a wide piece. So it just depends on how the pattern instructs you to cut it. But if you're going to use the fabric Bolt rib knitting, then just keep in mind that you'll need to do some adjustments when we get to the banded bottom part. And so you'll need to make it a little wider, so that way you'll be able to fold it wrong sides together, just like you do rib knitting. You'll be folding it wrong sides together, and then you'll be sewing on that raw edge with the wrong sides together and then turning it back out. So keep that in mind. Just a little bit extra step, that's all. I normally buy rib knitting for projects like this top that I have on and this one on the dress form. I normally buy it by cuffed rib knitting. That's what it's called. This particular rib knitting came from Pacific Trimming in New York, and I ordered it online. And basically it comes in strips, and they have the measurements of the strips on there. This one I've already cut into, but if you can see, this is an original strip right here. And I don't remember how long it is, but as you can see, it's fairly long. And so this, I believe, I don't even think I needed a whole one of these for the band on the bottom. I probably was able to cut some of it off and then cut another strip for the back side, because there is a side seam. There is a side seam right here, so you can see that I had to do a side seam to sew both of the rib knitting pieces together and then attach it to my top. And the same thing with the rib knitting on the cuff. I didn't necessarily need two seams. I could have actually had just one, but it was probably because I didn't have enough rib knitting, and so I needed two. So, and we'll talk about that when we get into it. The finishing on this banded bottom top, you're also going to need some bias binding, because I did finish it with bias binding. That's not a must, because you can always just tuck the top in and then just do a hem. So it's up to you. For me, I just like the bias binding because it makes it have a neater finish. And you might want to finish it with some rib knitting, because we're also going to talk about making another shirt that has rib knitting around the collar that I actually cut a strip of my cuff rib knitting. I cut it so it would be a little bit, it wouldn't be as wide. And so this is Pacific Trimming rib knitting. I also get rib knitting from Hobby Lobby. So it comes in different types or different textures. This rib knitting here is more like a sweater texture. So it's more like what you would see on the cuffs of some of your sweaters that you might buy for ready to wear. This rib knitting is more sporty rib knitting, probably what you might see on a bomber jacket or jacket. This one I think would probably range somewhere in between sporty and just your typical rib knitting cuff. And so again, you can see that I've cut these pieces to make them not as wide, because I did use this for the collar, to finish off the collar. So that's an idea too, if you want to do that for the banded bottom. We are going to be making a top in this series that's going to be long sleeves with 8656 that I've done before, and I added a ruffle to the side as well as a split. And so I'm going to come back next week and show you all of the makes that I've done with Simplicity 8656. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to start with our first hack, which is the banded bottom. So make sure you go ahead and pick up that pattern, pick up some rib knitting, and make sure that you have the basic sewing tools that you need. You, again, bias binding, a ruler, and your sewing machine, your sewing kit, and some pattern paper, or whatever paper you use to cut out patterns or to trace your patterns. Also, we're going to share our makes on Instagram. I am on Instagram as @ZenaIsSewing, so you can find me there. I'd hope you go and follow me so that you can get all of the updates, as well as we'll use the hashtag for our pattern hacks, we'll use the hashtag S8656 pattern hack. That's hashtag S8656 pattern hack. That way we'll be able to find all of our makes in one easy place, and we won't have to worry about trying to figure out who made what or where it is. It'll be in one location, and we'll be able to see all of the hacks that you've made with Simplicity 8656. And again, next week when I show you all of the makes that I've made with Simplicity 86, I hope it sparks some type of interest in you, and it'll make you excited to get into sewing and making an easy project and then hacking up something as easy as Simplicity 8656. So again, follow me on Instagram, Zena is Sewing, for all of the updates. And again, follow me on YouTube so that you can get the updates here as well. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a lovely week, and I can't wait to get started in this pattern hack series. It's the first of many to come, so I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I had this idea the other day of thinking, I've made 8656 so many times. How can I continue to evolve 8656? And then I wanted to share it with you guys. All right, have a great day.